We'll start out with the Pledge of Allegiance here. I pledge allegiance
to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic
for which it stands, one nation,
under God, indivisible,
indivisible,
with liberty
with
and justice for all. Okay. And the four-way test. Let's see here. Hi, Mary. Glad you could join us.
Thanks. Hey, Mary.
Hey, Mary.
All right, so here we go. The four-way test of the things that we think, say, or do. First, is it the truth?
The truth.
Second,
Clear to all concerned.
third,
Will
build goodwill and better friendships.
fourth, will it be beneficial?
Beneficial to all
all concerned.
And fifth,
Is it fun?
is
It will
it
be fun.
All right,
I like that.
all right. Okay, so let's start out with any family of Rotary news. Who's got something to share today? Like the old second grade show and tell here.
Well, Mary, how's your garden growing?
My garden and my dad's garden is growing beautifully. My boyfriend, Chris, really kind of took it over and it is thriving. So thanks for having me here. I know my dad would be happy to see me still Rotary-ing even in pandemic times. So thanks for
Right.
including me.
We're delighted that you're here.
Yeah.
Excellent.
I can throw something out of me. If anybody is interested in a place to get away to, Tammy and I are selling our camper, which sits on a permanent site down near Winona. So they can buy either just the camper, or if you want to buy everything, the amenities that go with it, and leave it on the site, it can be available that way too. So if anybody's interested, just get a hold of me.
Good deal. Thanks, Doug.
Yeah.
And Brent, I have a question for you. I am accumulating little things to put on the Facebook Rotary cell. So
Okay.
I have a few items that I know will be hot sellers. I'm sure that they'll go like fast. So
Sweet.
and so I hope everyone else is kind of, as they're cleaning up, if you have anything.
Yeah, actually, if you want to shoot me an email, Patricia, and we can maybe talk in the next couple of days on the details and go through that. So it'd be great. We'll get her started.
Okay.
Did I mention the fact that I came upon a picture, or I should say my wife came upon a picture of Sig Olson? Everybody know who Sig Olson is?
No.
No.
Well, never mind.
But if we do, we know where to go.
No, I thought everybody that lived in Minnesota would know who Sig Olson was.
You're right.
Okay, so he's an outdoorsman that and famous for writing many, many books about the boundary waters. In fact, he was instrumental in getting the boundary waters legislation passed, and it designated a national park.
Oh,
So,
awesome.
Okay.
You should share that with the speaker we had. I bet he would be very interested in that.
I'm sorry, what?
You ought to share that with the speaker we had on the boundary waters. He would be really
Yeah, I can do that. In fact, I have a picture of him with my wife's grandfather in 1927 that she came upon. So in any event, that's neither here nor there.
Okay. Well, it's a good thought. Thanks, Don.
Okay. What else is new? The earth looks good from my perspective here today. This is the Mediterranean Sea behind me. We're going over that right now as we speak.
Nice.
It's nice.
I'm in my third day of a master's program, so I decided that Rotary was going to be my lunch lunch break of writing papers. So
So what are you going to earn a degree in?
so I'm in my 3rd semester, and it's an advanced degree in child and adolescent development from the U of M.
Fabulous. Fabulous.
Yeah.
And you're enjoying it, learning a lot?
Yep. All kinds of transitions in 2020.
All kinds of transitions, that's true. That
Full
is
of transition.
Okay. Well, Joanne, I think
Right.
you want to introduce Jen.
Yeah. Well,
You're still muted here.
oh. Okay.
I'm going to mute everyone else here.
Unmute. Sorry about that.
There you go.
Okay.
Well, we are delighted to have Jen and Joanne come and talk to us about the Guatemala project. And I was just telling Joanne a little earlier, this is one of my favorite projects because we get to know so much about it. The newsletter is fabulous, and you keep us updated on the impact of our foundation dollars. So I want to thank you very much. Joanne, I'm going to let you do the more formal introduction.
Okay, great.
And thank
Well,
you for being
thank
here.
you. I'm so glad, and your club has always been so supportive of this project, and this is probably, I'm thinking, the 3rd time we've come to do an update, so we really appreciate it. We're doing an update to the risers at the end of the month, but it's really nice to keep your members informed about what's going on. Although I do recognize not everyone may be all that up to date on the project, and if you've missed some of the other updates that we've done, we'll give you a little bit of a background in terms of this project. Even though it's 2020 now, the discussions for this project began in 2017. And that came about as a result of some conversations with Jen Brewer and actually Tom Fleming from my Rotary Club. And eventually it worked its way to our World Community Service Committee. And we said, yeah, this potential nutrition project sounds very interesting and like it's very needed, and will do a lot to help maternal and child health in rural areas of Guatemala. So we jumped on board, started working on it, and this is a global grant, and it's one of the first global grants that our 3 clubs have been involved in. And so collectively among our 3 clubs, we contributed $10,000, and we were very fortunate to have 5 other clubs within our district, as well as another district in Colorado, that contributed funds to this project. So that, along with district and RI funding, yielded $95,600. So that's a lot of money. So for us to contribute, and when I say us, I mean our 3 local Rotary clubs, for us to have contributed and come up with $10,000 and to have raised the rest of the money that allowed us to get that level of matching, it's phenomenal. So it's really exciting to have that much money, because it means we can serve more families as a result of this project. So the project was approved in July of 2018. The project really didn't begin until November of that year, and a lot of that I would attribute to learning, because while it was approved, it took us a few months to get the last club to submit their dollars, because we couldn't begin the project until we had all of the money in our bank account. And so anyway, in November, we launched. So in November of 2019, our first report was due. And so we did our annual report to Rotary regarding the status of the project. And then now here we are starting to look ahead to November of this year, when our next report is due. And even though on our project application it said that the project would conclude on July 15th of this year. Think about that, Jen. July 15th. We were hoping to be done by this time, but obviously, as with most things, there are some delays, not the least of which has been the entire COVID situation. So that has put us behind a bit. And that's really where Jen comes in. She's going to share a little bit about what the progress has been to date, where we are exactly right now with the delays and what's we anticipate going forward. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Jen, who will tell you all about our project of growing Guatemala.
Thank you so much, Joanne, and thank you so much. I absolutely adore the Rotary. I think you have done fantastic job. Just the more I learn, the more I'm impressed. Joanne is like getting me to join, and I want to, but I've still got 7 kids who are running me rampant, especially now with the pandemic. So I am going to jump in and give you, if I can screen share. I'm going to give you an update. So for those of you who are not familiar, we're going to do a brief recap of where we've been and then where we are and where we're going with the project. So as you know, we've started in Guatemala, and this slide gives you exactly where. I know there are several projects going in Guatemala. It is a land that size-wise, it's about the size of Utah, if you can believe it. But with the land, with the mountains and the travel conditions, it really is almost like 30 different countries. They have 36 spoken languages there, and they're very tribal and very indigenous still. So you go from one part to the other, and it's like 2 different countries. So this is where we are. We are right here in, oh, if I can get my pointer, right here in Tecpan. In this general area is where we've been working, and that's with both Spanish speakers and Quechua speakers. So above and beyond just the project, the groups that we've been working with have done great jobs of getting both Spanish speakers and Quechua speakers, which is a major advantage to working with on the team players, is they know the people, they're more accepted by the people. All of the project is run 100% by on the ground people, by Guatemalan organizations. This is just gives you an overview of what a landscape does look like in Guatemala. It's very mountainous, and farming does happen. As you can see right here, they cut away at the mountains and do mass farming. So you would think it would be a no-brainer that they know how to grow. They don't. They know mostly how to grow mass products for export, not necessarily home gardens for their own intake, which is where this big divide comes. And we've got a lot of, this is just to give you a look of what one of the inside of their homes looks like, how they cook. And I know Rotary is doing right now a stove project to try to help with this. So in combination, these will be great projects to put together. And just again, to give you a view of some of the kids. So this problem, you try to combat one problem and you realize there are so many circular problems. For example, if you can see her teeth right here, dental problems are a huge issue. And what we have found is babies are actually born with dental deficiencies. So this nutrition issue, it's not just that they're eating sugar and dental hygiene issues, which does contribute, but it's a far deeper problem. And that's why this program specifically targets children of 2 and under. Because we find it's called the first 1,000 days of life. It's in that first 1,000 days of life is when children have the best possibility of growth, not only of their body potential, but of their brain potential. So that's why we really hit maternal and the infant and children on this project. This gives you a view. These children are both from the exact same village. These children are with families who migrated to Florida when they were younger. So you can see that it's not just a genetics thing. There is a lot of nutrition components with the physical stunting that happens. But more devastating is the mental stunting that happens. This is the brain of a malnourished 4-year-old. This is the brain of a healthy 4-year-old. So these are the deep-rooted problems we're trying to solve by this. It's not just a feel-good, let's go get gardens and give people vegetables. We're really trying to do a generational turn that then can grow their brains, grow their bodies, stop the poverty cycle. The problem with this is you can't get overnight results. We can get results. What we're trying to do with this is get more diet diversity, because what we're hoping is that will trickle down then into these issues. And through the years, that will grow they'll have more brain capacity, they'll have more education, they'll be able to make more money, get out of the poverty cycle, and start a generational cycle. So it sounds, especially in our culture, it can sound really hoity-toity to say we're going to go grow gardens. But really, in countries like Guatemala and other underserved populations, that truly is one of the keys. And I'll get more to that when we get to the COVID. So this is just gives you some view of what happens in the field. The field workers go out and do weigh and measure these children every month, sometimes twice a month. So there has been great monitoring of this project of going out. This gives you a view of the garden. So this garden, this one right here, is on the rooftop of Maya Health Alliance. It's one of our partners. So it shows you the reason why we went with raised beds. There are many, many reasons, but this is one, is that it does not depend on the ground that people have available. You don't have to do soil testing. It doesn't matter if they have clay dirt or hard dirt or no land at all. You can plop this on a rooftop and it will still grow and work for them. And we took out the work of the weeding process. You take out, they use mostly brosa, which is just leaves that you can gather from the forest. So a lot of this is made to be easily replicated in other areas. So this shows you some in the field visits that happen. This is some of the produce from some of the early gardens that have been planted. She's charting the growth curve of the child that has just been measured. So there's a lot of education that goes along with this. They offer cooking classes. So people will bring in the produce from their gardens and then they will all cook together. So learn how to use the produce and not just go sell it in the market. They also have started in the dry season, they've started a water filter system that they can use their gray water, which is the dirty water that they use to wash their plates. They put it through a charcoal sand filter system, and then they can get water that they can use to then water their gardens. So these gardens can run year round in this climate. That's another one of the beauties of doing a garden project in Guatemala. They also did a composting part to this project, where they could start with worms and then have this be a renewed source of getting nice, rich compost. And not only this is our agronomist, Eddie. He is phenomenal because he figured not only compost, if you can see underneath, he got another bucket, and over here, you can see it right here, where they gathered the water that dropped from the compost. And that is actually akin to fertilizer, that they're using their own natural based fertilizer that they then go dump in the garden as well. So they're just, the way that they have taken this project and run with it has been incredible, and to do all these little side projects on the end. This gives you, so Eddie's doing, so these families receive both nutrition classes and agronomy education classes. And this is a picture of Eddie doing an agronomy lesson with the people. This is one of the gardens that's being planted, and you can see it's being planted over rocks. So again, very versatile, very usable. The families are required to help in some way, so they have pay in to this. Here's some kids helping with this. This is what I want to touch on. One of the classes, the agronomy classes, is teaching them how to save the seeds from their garden to then replant those seeds, and how to start seedlings, and how to he teaches them how to get buckets or little, like he even used a pop can at one of the houses we went to teach them how to grow their seedlings in ways that don't wash away in the storms. So this is going to become right here. This is key, especially right now when we can't get to the families, that they can realistically sustain themselves on their gardens by the education that they've received. So here's the project. Here are the nitty-gritty stats. So the original project was to do 140 families. They have contacted all 140 families, have been enrolled. 140 completed the baseline surveys, and then they have done follow-up surveys. So at the time that things got shut down with COVID, they completed 79 follow-up surveys. And then the reason it's 79 is they had 10 people enroll a month to not overwhelm their field workers. So the people complete their 6-month points at different points along the project. So this is why 79 have follow-up at this point. 14 families have done the full year and have done that follow-up surveys. So what we did with this program also is we cut the families in half, and 140 received right off the bat nutrition and gardens. Oh, I meant 70, sorry. So 70 families received gardens and nutrition. 70 families just for the first part received nutrition, because we wanted to tease out if the gardens really do make a huge difference for future recommendations, to show, do they need the full package? Do they need the garden piece, or is the nutrition piece enough? So that's why 65 have gardens have been built to date. 5 of the families opted out of doing the garden piece. So 19 families from those have completed the follow-up survey from the garden, and all 140 families have received, and they've been receiving, and I think by this time they have received all of their nutrition classes. When Guatemala shut down, they continued teaching through phone classes, and if available for families, some could get on Zoom, not a whole lot, but they did a lot of follow-up teaching through phone. Okay, enter Corona pandemic, which has shut the world down. And Guatemala, to their credit, as a country, they had a new president just get elected and just start office in January. And this new president is very forward thinking. So they instantly, they sealed their borders. Nobody is allowed into the country. They did that even before America did that. They wouldn't let any passenger planes come in at all, except if you were a Guatemala citizen. And then they have one main road that travels kind of north and south, and then another east and west. And what they did is all of the little offshoots to the villages, they cut those off, which is good for the spread of a pandemic. Very bad if you're a family that depends on food coming in through villages and through local markets. They have a national curfew from 6 p.m. to 8 a.m. every day. And then on the weekends, it's the whole weekend where you cannot step out of your house. Even I did get an email this morning from Ann Kramer from Maya Health Alliance, and she said they just now this weekend are opening up where you can take walks in your neighborhood over the weekend. So they are being very cautious with the spread of it. The issue with this is they can't get garden supplies to the families. So the new gardens have been completely halted. They cannot, nobody enters in. Above the national restrictions, each village is putting their own restrictions as well. And most of them are not letting even from village to village transportation come in. So what they can do is they can continue with phone contact, and they have been doing that. And the silver lining to this is those that have gardens have been able to still improve their family's nutrition. So what we have seen is what we thought was a little side, maybe good sustainability, has really become a lifeline. That garden piece has been what has sustained a lot of these families when even the local mercado days have been shut down. So the struggle is we haven't been able to get new gardens out. Financially speaking, we're still on track. Maya Health keeps very meticulous records and has been very good about that. So we're still on chart with that. What we're seeing is, what we've been trying to fight with this program is that chronic malnutrition that I've talked about, when it just lasts for years, and maybe kids are getting enough calories, but they're not getting enough nutrition. That's what we were trying to combat, especially with the garden piece. What we're seeing now with Corona is a shift from a chronic to acute malnutrition. And that's just when you have a sharp decrease of any sort of caloric intake. And that has a whole different set of problems that come with that. A lot of us in America, we've seen a lot of struggle with that here. People, especially who live from paycheck to paycheck. People in Guatemala live from day to day. So they don't even have from paycheck to, they don't even have a 2-week window. It has been very, very devastating in a lot of cases. So these two, we work with 2 on the ground organizations. One is Cultiva International and one is Maya Health Alliance. So they have both shifted gears in what they've been doing. And this is what Cultiva has been doing. They have teamed up with the fire department because that's the only organization that's really allowed into these villages. And Cultiva has shifted from building gardens to now supplying actual food packages to families because they realize we're not into handouts, but this is a dire situation. So yes, we will do handouts to help people live. So this is a man receiving, this is all of the food for his entire family for the week. He can hold it in 2 bags. But that's what the fire department's able to do at this time, is to try to get supplies as they can. What they have received are people with statements saying things like this: the owner of this garden is just flourishing like crazy. And she said she's able to eat. She's able to feed her family during this pandemic, and how grateful she is for the garden aspect. Maya Health Alliance, they are a larger organization and they are a medically based organization. So they have stepped up their game in a huge way. They are helping provide food and hygiene packets. They also really have jumped on education. They have a lot of educational handouts for people, a lot of nutrition specifically to coronavirus. They offer updates of what the government's doing. They do remote classes. They've been doing great things. And I have both of their websites that if you do want to go see what each of them are doing, you can go see each of these, what they're doing. If you personally would want to get involved on a different level and help in their acute problems, here is the information. And I'm happy to email this to anybody so you can have the links if you want there. And again, I will just end with this. In every community, there's work to be done. In every nation, there are wounds to heal, and in every heart, there is power to do it. And this is where I circle back around. I am so grateful for Rotary and all that you have done. You have made this possible. Who knew that we would be in the middle of a pandemic, in the middle of this project, which has caused huge headaches. I'm not gonna lie. We're on to plan J and K in some aspects, but we're seeing so many silver linings. We're seeing really in real time the effect of what, like Joanne was saying, your dollars have gone to help sustain entire family units during this pandemic time. You did that. Your Rotary Club has done that, has helped sustain entire family units by your generosity. That to me is mind-blowing and is so incredible to see the difference that you can make in the lives of other people. And that is where I'll end. We can open it if any of you have any questions or any comments.
I have a question, Jen. Marvelous work, absolutely fabulous. And but what's going to happen next after the pandemic? Will the gardening supplies then be continued to be given to the families, or what's the next step?
Yes, that's a fantastic question. And we are working with Maya Health to exactly figure out what that's going to look like. And yes, the goal is to get all of the gardens implemented. Up to this point, they've been able to do it in a staggered way. And our hope is when things open up, our vision, if I could be so bold as to say, is to hope to get a group to go down and help just build all 70 gardens, if possible. Just kind of go down and do a mass building to try to kind of make up for the lost time and be able to get more gardens functioning. But yes, that is still.
Go ahead, finish.
Oh, that is the end goal for sure with this project, is to make sure all of the families have gardens.
And that was our goal this summer. We had done some planning to identify a time in maybe July or August when we could have brought together a group of Rotarians to go down and help with the hands-on labor to help them do more gardens in a shorter period of time. And obviously with the situation as it is and the travel restrictions, that got canceled. So the question is, will we be able to pick that up? And if so, at what time? And will the timing match with when the need for doing the gardens is? But that would be our goal. And even if we are unsuccessful at getting a group together to go down and build the gardens, I still would like to see, before everything is completely done, that we're able to send some Rotarians down. It's not very often that we're able to send a group down to a project site to see and touch what the impact has been as a result of the grants that we do. So if anybody has any interest at all in doing a service trip to Guatemala to see this project, be sure to let me know, and then we'll keep you informed as time goes on as to when we think we would be able to travel and what would be the what we'll do while we're down there.
Okay. Great. I'm not sure how to ask this question. It's once Rotary leaves, will these agencies, these partner agencies, continue the program? Is that the hope also?
Yes, that is definitely our hope, and that is a great question. We, Joanne and I went down last August, and that was one of the main questions we kept asking. And to be fully transparent, there are two groups down there. One, we do have a little question about their investment to see it continue. The other group, they are fully committed to, that's all they do are the gardens. So they are fully committed. They've been there for 7 or 8 years, just doing gardens, wanting to push it out and make it work. So that we have no qualms that they will continue on with here. The first group will, the value that they will add is they're very good at doing reports and how to replicate the program and how to help other communities learn how to build a program. One of the stipulations, because this was a grant of $95,000, and that question was, how does that translate into 140 gardens? And that's a lot of money for that. And there was a lot of back end to that. For one, we were able to purchase a truck, because when you get into really these back wooded areas, the public transportation is pretty much non-existent. So to be able to get the garden supplies there, that increased the cost of the total grant. So that's one thing they are working on, is how do you get this into other communities at a much lower entry cost.
Yeah.
That you wouldn't need a huge grant, that they've kind of teased out. And that's why we wanted to make sure the garden piece was really, really important to justify the added workload that it was to add those up. And that's one thing we have seen from this, that yes, it is very much worth it to find a way to get the garden piece along with the nutrition information. So that's what they're working on now, is how can you do this at a much lower cost per community with getting it. But the overall goal for sure is to make it sustainable, not only sustainable, but able to spread into other communities.
And that is a challenge, and especially on a global grant, Rotary is very particular about two things. Number one, just the needs assessment to make sure that it's the community that's requesting this, but also then the sustainability. And so it is an area that we want to continue to talk about with the partners to make sure that there are enough strategies in place that they are able to sustain the work that's been done and sustain the impact that it's had. And in a perfect world, you'd want these families who have this knowledge, have these gardens, that they can be the hands and legs to take that information to other families in their village or the surrounding area, so that you're not totally dependent upon a small core group to do it.
Right. Well, congratulations. It's a wonderful project.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Jen, I have a question.
Yes.
I was in Guatemala actually in January on a medical mission, and so I completely, this
Oh, wow.
project is very, when you're there, the need for it is very obvious. You touched on it a little bit, but have you received much feedback from those families that have the gardens on how successful they are in utilizing what they grow? I mean, I know in my garden, I'm having a difficult time learning new, like, I have so much dill. Like, how do I use dill? Or how do you use those
Yes.
things? And especially in a culture where, you know, the recipes are very traditional and that's just what they make, and that's
Yes.
kind of the expectation of what you eat.
Yes, that's another great question, and that is one that we went back and forth with in the preliminaries of this project. Of, do we want to introduce new foods to people, or will they eat new foods? How will they eat new foods? What if they have a whole huge bumper crop of kale and they've never eaten kale before? So we made it very user friendly with a sheet that shows all of the crops that are available, and then it's a chart that shows what that crop does for their body in picture form. You know, this helps your muscles, this crops help your eyes, but then we let the families choose from the get-go what they want to plant. So they have total control over what they want. We decided, you know, us dictating them getting a variety is not as important as them utilizing what they grow. Like exactly what you brought up. So they pick what they want, and then there's a chart saying how much of that can grow, so they can know, if I pick this is how much I can plant, this is what harvest I'll get, so maybe I want to plant 3 squares of this. So in the planning phase, they can work out a lot of that, of food that their family will eat. But then that's also where the cooking classes come in, is then the food from their garden, they get together and do cooking classes, so they're learning right in the moment, what is a new way I can use this? Or it's a recipe that one of the families has and just shares with the other families. So we're really working to get that community share, family to family, with ideas, just like you're saying, with ideas of, how do I use this lettuce that we don't eat salads? How do I use this lettuce? How do I grow it in a different way? So that definitely is one step of the project for sure.
One interesting thing when we were there, and it wasn't one of the gardens for these families, but we visited some of the sites with Cultiva to see their gardens. And there was one garden, and it was bountiful, and it was overgrown, not with weeds, but with produce. Well, the agronomist that worked with Cultiva, I mean, I don't know Spanish, but I could hear. He was kind of chastising them, saying, you've got to harvest. They weren't harvesting. They were great at growing, but they hadn't quite figured out that they need to harvest in order to use it. And so you really do, it's kind of like you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make him drink. So it really points out, you need to make sure, to Jen's point, that they're growing what they want, because you can give them a lot of good, nutritious food, but if it's not something they want and they're not going to use it, you're no further ahead. So let them have a voice in what they grow, but then take it all the way through so that they know at what point do they harvest. And then once that crop is done, what do they do then? And that's where the seeds come into play. So you need to look at the whole continuum. Otherwise, that's why projects fail, because we see the immediate result and we think, yay, we're done, we've done it. But we need to see it through to make sure that they pull it in and can embrace and do what's necessary to sustain it.
Yep.
If we were to go with a group to do a mass build, how many would be in the group? What would it cost? And what can we take with us? Tools, seeds, what would we need to take with us?
To bring, that last question is just bring yourself.
Yeah.
The seeds, in fact, they won't let us bring seeds from America. They want it to be very, very organically done with seeds from Guatemala. And tools, they try to have the family help out with tools as much as they can. And then the the organizations do bring some tools to help and supplement. The cost, when we were doing preliminary costs, we were thinking of right around $1,000 for the week. And that covers all the housing, all the food, all the transportation. So the ticket would then be, we figured people could get the ticket on your own for those who have Sky Miles or a particular airline that you like with that.
So 1,000 plus airfare.
Yes.
Because unfortunately, it's hard to believe, but the airfare to Guatemala, for as close as it is, basically, is not inexpensive. I mean, the ticket, this is before pandemic, was between $800 and $900 on average. So that plus any on the ground expenses.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Are there any other questions?
I've been in Guatemala a couple times, and we don't get toilet paper here easily, but you can't put the toilet paper in the toilet.
Nope.
And that's the kind of thing you need to tell us about.
Yes.
When you discover you can't put the toilet paper in the toilet, it's a whole different ballgame.
Yeah. Yes. And we do, the plan when we were in the planning phases was to all meet together in Guatemala City. There's a hotel that's right by the airport, and do an entry meeting where that evening, and even do some before, some like Zoom meetings to help you know what to pack. You know, to say, yeah, you might want to bring maybe a roll of toilet paper or some tissues. Don't plan on flushing it. You know, yeah, little tidbits like that you will want to spray your clothes down before you go. There are some tips that will help make the trip much more enjoyable.
As well as sharing some cultural things, so that when people go, you know, they're a little bit more prepared for what they might encounter, and it'll just make for a more enriching experience.
Yes. So yes, we will do some before meetings, and then the night we all get there, we will do a big meeting where we do a formal presentation on what to expect for the week, what like a day-to-day plan of what to expect.
I want to thank you for giving us the opportunity to present. It's really fun for us, as you can tell, to share what's going on with this project. And again, just a big thank you to your club, and a shout out to Don Fell, because he represents your club so well at the World Community Service Team meeting, and is such an avid supporter of all of the global work that we do. So we really appreciate your club's support, and hope that if we are able to put together a mission trip to do some service with the project, that you're able to join us.
Yes.
Well, I want to say thank you to you two ladies for what you're doing as well. It's obviously a huge project, and we appreciate what you do.
Very much.
Thank
Very
you.
much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Agree. Wow.
Thank you.
Yes, thanks a lot.
How long do you think your involvement will still run?
Me personally, in Guatemala,
The project, when do we think the project will end?
The project, as soon as we can get this dang coronavirus to exit the building, then I'm guessing, again, this changes daily with projections. If we can get the community to open up in a safe way and get the gardens done, I'm guessing the project will finish up probably within 6 months of that point.
And if not, then probably it'll get pushed back for a full year, because we will get into the rainy season when it's not feasible to do some of this work, and then it'll pick up again next spring. So the maximum would be that it would create a 1-year delay, but otherwise 6 months.
Mm-hmm.
It was a great program. Absolutely fabulous.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Nice job, Jen.
Do you mind if I make an announcement about next week's program?
Yes.
We are going to have a presentation, because our club does the 4-way test award. And so we're going to present that to Community Food Response. And we're also going to have a program about the Emergency Operations Center. So stay tuned for next week. We look forward to seeing everybody. And Doug, I hope your bronchitis clears up. I know you're not feeling well.
Thank you. Yeah, it's working on it. Okay, well, I think that wraps up our meeting for today. Thank you for all.
Really quick, this, I don't even know if this is allowed. This is one thing, Joanne, it's like a jump of topic. Well, still on gardens, but a jump.
Yeah.
Joanne and I have talked about of doing, if you ever have interest in hydroponic gardening, that is another little baby project that we do that we'd be happy to present on.
Well, we have a time in August that you want to do a program for us. We'll set you up.
I'm happy to.
Might we'll have some produce from it too.
Yep.
Great.
Fun.
Sounds wonderful.
Very good.
Okay.
Thank you all for joining us today. So,
Thank you.
Thank
all
you.
right.
Thanks so much. Bye-bye.
I know,
Bye.
Everybody stay healthy.
working on it.